Hey, yo, what's up? This is Jay Kelly, host of The Building Downtown. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Building Downtown, and make sure you follow and subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, all those nice places where you get your music from, your podcasts from. We're on there under The Building Downtown. For tonight, we're doing something a little special. I'm going to be rolling solo. Cailin Cagayan will not be joining me tonight. I'll be hooking up with my old co-host from Rear Naked Choke Radio, who I did an MMA show with for about 7 years. And we'll be talking about UFC 246, which goes down this Saturday, January 18th, at the T-Mobile Center in Las Vegas, headlined by Conor McGregor and Donald Cowboy Cerrone. And let's get into it.
Building downtown.
Fight week. UFC 246, Conor McGregor versus Donald Cerrone. And I, Jason Kelly, the host of The Building Downtown, am back on my old stomping grounds, Rear Naked Choke Radio, with my old buddy, the man, the one who does everything in threes, Joe Rizzo. How you doing, buddy?
I do everything in threes, but this is my first thing that I've done this year. Well, no, actually, maybe it's my third. Who knows? But anyway, it's 2020, and Jay, if you're smart, what you do is you move along with the times, right? So what we do here is you and I, Rear Naked Choke Radio, we found the lost episode, we posted that, and you're doing The Building Downtown now. I'm working on another podcast and project, and but here's the thing: like, you take the smart people in this industry, like Opie from Opie Radio and Matt Farah from the Smoking Tire, and like they want to hang out and they want to do each other's shows, and what they do is like they share an episode. And so I was talking to you. I'm like, why don't we just share an episode? It's Conor McGregor's fighting, like. That's always a reason that you and I would have, in the Rear Naked Choke Radio days, that we'd be taking like a 4-month hiatus, be like, McGregor's fighting. Yeah, we probably better do a show. So here we
love
are.
him or hate him. Conor McGregor brings everyone together.
It's just easy to talk about. He's just an interesting guy, and he's facing Cerrone here in UFC 246. The card itself is actually pretty good too. There's some juice.
A little bland. A little bland for a Conor card.
Well, of course, if it's a Conor card, so they're not gonna bottom load it. They're gonna do it like just at the top, and then. But you got it. It's always the angle, right? Like you gotta really look hard at the card and say, wait a minute, like, what are some of these matchups like? Are there some good fights that are actually on there, even though maybe like the matchups themselves, they made some interesting matchups on it, not necessarily like these big headlining fights that you're going to go out of your way to see. But anyway, we could get into all that as we go along. But Jay, it's good to talk to you again. It's good to be back on the air.
It's fun to be back in this format too.
Yeah, it is. It's good. And The Building Downtown is a really cool new show, and I'm glad that we're able to share this, and me making my first of many appearances.
Yes, I can't wait to have you on with shout out to my co-host Cailin Cagayan. He couldn't be with us tonight. He had some prior engagements, but I'm looking forward to having you two on. Or I guess like I said before, you're that third co-host that'll be joining us very often. It could be.
Cail's not ducking. It's not that he's ducking. He's not ducking me. He's
not ducking. He's Russian. We could start a whole Russian-American thing. We'll start a whole new Cold War with you two.
War? What are you talking about? Nobody loves Russian people more than me. You got to be kidding me. We'd probably be like old buddies. Nostrovia, like the whole thing, like blow out all your air before you do the vodka shots. Like I know the whole thing. Come on.
Yeah, you guys are going to vibe well. And also, like you mentioned to me earlier, you're going to put some life back into Rear Naked Choke Radio, so I'm sure I'll find myself on there often enough. I know my way around there.
I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know if we're going to keep doing like such MMA-centric shows. The stuff that really I've always liked to do, which is just talk to people, just like we were always sitting around and, listen, Did I become Joe Rogan? No. Was I doing that format, or some kind of form of it for a really long time? Yeah. And, he's just better at it than me, but like, it doesn't mean I can't still do it, as a hobby.
He also was a part of this news radio show and the host of this Fear Factor show and the commentator for this Ultimate Fighting Championship League before he started the podcast. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys were on fair playing ground to begin with. Because you know what I noticed?
You know what? No,
here's where people got to give you. They got to give you your props as the founder, creator, owner of Rear Naked Choke Radio. Joe Rogan celebrated his 10-year anniversary in December 2019. You celebrated yours in, it was like March or April of 2017. So they got to put some respect on your name for that alone. And I'm not just talking like you were recording calls over a speakerphone and uploading them to the internet and calling that a podcast. You were in a gym with professional boxing or like whatever, not necessarily always professional, but like training going on with professional boxers at times, amateur boxers. People are just training in the background, in rings, at the gym every Wednesday, and you had fighters there live on set. Film, you were doing them on what, Ustream?
Yeah, I did Ustream.
You were doing Ustream. Okay, that's like MySpace days. People got to put respect on your motherfucking name.
How about this? Kaitlyn Cagayan, who's fighting for a title in a few weeks.
February 8th, I'm pretty sure, against
she
Valentina.
She was on Rear Naked Choke Radio, I believe, before she even had her first amateur fight. I saw her work out. I've known Jimmy Rivera for a long time, and Jimmy Rivera was at Tygo Sherman's, which is not that far, like the headquarters, which is not that far from where I am in New Jersey. So we used to go down there and we would shoot some stuff for MMA diehards, and we would do stuff for, whatever radio shows we were doing, including this one. And I saw Kaitlyn like working out with the MMA team, and I was like blown away. I'm like, holy shit, this girl's like unbelievable. So I was like, who's that? They're like, oh, that's Kaitlyn. So, and then, I mean, we haven't been much in touch lately, but like that, like when I see stuff like that, and I'm like, wow, Kaitlyn was on this show before. I'm pretty sure it was before she even had her first amateur fight, and now she's fighting Shevchenko for the 125-pound title in the UFC. I mean, women weren't even in the UFC at the time of that interview. How about this? Women weren't even close to the UFC.
No kidding.
At the time that she was on, I mean, so that's good. And I'm trying to remember. I think she might have come on in person when we were at LA Boxing in Paramus, New Jersey. I mean, we had it was a little difficult to get people out there. Like if we were in a better location, like Paramus, New Jersey is a pretty central location. It's just that there's, a lot of traffic and people don't really want to go like too far out of their way. But like, we had some cachet. I mean, we had a lot of good guests on over the years.
Flaunt. Talk your shit. Let them drop some names. Who is it? King Mo brought along at his early ages in MMA.
Daniel Cormier. So
just
Daniel
that guy.
Cormier came.
Okay. Wasn't there some chick who did some big things in women's MMA that was on there?
That was on the show in person or in
no.
No, well, King Mo and Daniel Cormier came. They actually came. I was talking about the people that actually showed up to LA Boxing and sat with us, that was really my goal. Like I wanted to make that like a physical location or destination where these fighters would, if they were in the area or something, they'd come in and they'd sit down with us, kind of like to some certain degree, like what Ariel did. I just didn't have the I didn't have the studio per se. It was, I could make a mobile studio anywhere. I just need, a computer, a mixing board, and like my crap and an internet connection. But, like Ariel was more centrally located. He had his, he had a studio in the city, and he was able to like parlay a lot of that stuff. But we were doing that for years before he started doing like, a podcast. It's just, some of those guys have just, They just did it. They just did it better. Or like the thing you're talking about, I think it's nice, by the way, and I appreciate you like trying to give me props. But like guys like Rogan, guys like Ariel, like they're super hard workers. Like it's not just that they're lucky. Like these guys are not lucky. Like Rogan works his ass off. Ariel works his ass off.
And I'm not saying it's lucky.
It's total dedication. I never put like that level of dedication in, except for maybe like a short period of time. And when I did, like the show was good. In fact, there was just some anniversary that came up on Facebook when like the UG had us nominated for like podcast of the year or like MMA show of the year. I was like, wow, holy shit, I didn't even think they knew we existed. But we had like we've had a good following. We still have the subscribers. So when people saw this like lost show from 2019 that you and I did, and I'm like, screw it, I'm not even putting context. I found it. I solved a problem on the back end that we had where we couldn't post shows for a while, and I posted it, and it's right there in the iTunes thing, and I see like the subscribers are still there. It's still hitting people's like subscriptions. They probably forgot about it, and now all of a sudden they're going to get like 2 in a week here. It's going to be pretty funny. But they're still there. Like we've had some really loyal fans who have stuck with us over the years. There's not there's not too much like feedback or any of that stuff. Like it's not like crazy active on Twitter. You could always get us there. You could go over all the Twitter stuff for both shows. But it's just nice to do it. Like it's nice to be part of the community, and to have been there for a while and sit here with you, heaping praise all upon me when you're half the mechanism that makes the machine go is very flattering, and I do appreciate that.
Yeah, the early days though, that was you. That was all you.
But listen, you're for a non-talent ass, you're pretty good yourself, my friend.
Plus, I came up under the Canadian education system. You know how shitty that is, right? You haven't ever let me forget that since I met you in fucking 2010.
I love the Canadian education system. I love Canadians. I love Canada. I love America. Actually, I'm wearing an America sweatshirt tonight, but I have a Canada one from when I was up there a couple of months ago that like I almost never take off. It's like I had to raise my hoodie game this past couple of months because I was like really stale, but got a couple of like USA ones, and I got the Canada one while I was up there. It's good, it's good stuff. Anyway, but like, what do people want to hear? Do they want to hear us like riff and BS and whatever? I don't know, but I mean, like McGregor, Cerrone, like I was a little disappointed in the matchup when it came out. I mean, I'll settle for it because I just want to see McGregor back in
Settle?
Yeah, because
you're telling me
it's at welterweight. It's against Cerrone's gotten jacked his last 2 fights. I mean, like the guy's made it into the second round. What do you think is going to happen here? Like the same thing. I mean, no.
I think if we're going with what I think is going to happen in the fight, and by all means, listeners, if you're looking for like a real breakdown, I don't know, go find Robin Black or someone like that. I can, but from the tendencies they both have, obviously the way Cerrone wins the fight, I know a lot of people are saying take him down, submit him. I like that in the press conference Cerrone pointed out that it's not like Conor doesn't know how to get up or avoid takedowns or get a submission, so it's not like it's going to be that easy for him if that was his plan. But the way Cerrone fights, obviously Conor wants to keep it standing. Cerrone is a lunatic, so he always wants to keep things standing and get nuts. Using, like teeps, like front kicks, leg kicks, and a little bit of boxing to stay on the outside and wear Conor down, work on his legs a lot. Not necessarily like beat on his legs like a lot of people say that about Nate Diaz. They always have. That Nate leans on that front leg, not like Conor does that, but what Cowboy loves to do is like maybe throw a jab and a leg kick or a front kick, and then he stands right in boxing range and starts throwing boxing combinations. He's always done that, and you look at his highlights. A lot of times, those head kicks he sets up, it's from that boxing range. He's landing the boxing combinations. So the person's getting hit too much. They have to take a step back. They take that step back. They're watching the boxing combinations. Boom, they get hit with that head kick. And he throws that bitch like a whip. I just don't see Conor getting caught with that. So I think, Conor is if I had to bet money on it, I would say Conor late in the first, early in the second, because of, like I said, that tendency that Cerrone has, and I don't think that he's not going to change this late in his career. Plus, like I said, he likes to get in there and he likes to get hit. Not necessarily like a Justin Gaethje, but Cowboys. He likes those gritty fights. He likes to be a cowboy, basically. But
you sound like you're about to break into a Kid Rock song.
But well, you're thinking that like Cowboy has, he's lost his last two. Conor hasn't been great over the past few outings either. Cowboy stayed active. Conor's had time off. Where they're doing that 170, I think that's more so of a, fuck cutting weight. I can't wait to see what the official weigh-in is. They might be low 70s 170, but rehydrate to low 70s at best. One of them might weigh in, especially if I'm going to have to pick one, Conor might weigh in at like 168 or something. I think that's just an agreement between them, like fuck the cutting weight thing. So the 170, I think that goes more to Cowboys' favor than Conor's favor. I think that there's a lot of history here. So right from the Red Panty night, that press conference, Conor and Cerrone were having exchanges that night. Cerrone was sitting right behind him. And at that time, Conor was fighting at 45 and Cerrone was at 55. So there's history. So like, as far as saying like you don't really, the fight doesn't get you excited. Like you're going to tune in and everything because it is a Conor fight, but being matched up against Cerrone, I think that the story's there, the excitement's there. I think where they're meeting right now in their career is a good place for them to meet. I think that if it would have happened, like say Conor would have jumped up for no reason from 45 to 55 before beating Aldo because of somehow it got, that fight came together with Cerrone, I think Cerrone would have murdered him. I think a few years ago when Cerrone was kind of bouncing between 55 and 70 and trying to figure shit out, Conor would have killed him. I think right now they're both at not lows in their career, but definitely lulls compared to where they usually are. They're usually, higher up, at least on the winning scale. Their stock is still very high. I think this is a big fight for all those reasons.
Well, I'm not saying it's not big. I'm not saying it's not box office, and I'm not saying I'm not interested. But the matchup itself, like I get the idea, but I just think it's more interesting when you feel like Conor has a better chance to lose. And in this case, you're like even you're trying to make cases for Cerrone, but even you think Conor's going to finish him in a round or two, right? Which is what you just said.
Definitely.
Yeah, so that's the thing that like it wasn't just that when he was fighting Nate Diaz on short notice, Conor McGregor, that it was because of Nate Diaz. You knew you're going to get 8 days of ridiculousness in the media and crazy shit. But like, even you said it. Like, that was one of our biggest Rear Naked Choke Radio podcast numbers ever. When you did like a 15-minute spot on why you thought Nate Diaz should be the replacement in that fight, and then literally like it happened the next day.
It happened later that day.
Yeah, it happened later that day. And the thing is, like, you knew as an MMA person, you knew that was like a real matchup that was going to give McGregor a lot of problems.
Yeah.
and that him taking it on that, especially on short notice, was going to make it even more of a problem, and that all the shit that Nate was saying, he actually had a real chance to make it come true.
Yeah.
Like Cerrone is McGregor's a minus 340 favorite. Cerrone's a plus 280 underdog. If you don't know what those numbers mean, it means he's a pretty significant favorite. This would be a pretty big upset if Cerrone.
But as Nick Kalikas has taught us before, money lines don't always say who's better. It's because of how much money is coming in on one guy. Right, so you got to think how much money is coming in on Conor. So I think that would affect the lines.
Yes, but
quite a bit.
But it's not going to be so much. Like even if it's affecting it 20%. If you took if you did a 20% swing the other way, he's still a big favorite. So I'm accounting for that in my thinking. And you're right, like it does. Like lines have to do with how much money is going on one and how much is going on the other. And in most cases, the betting lines are made that they want like equal money on both sides, so they limit their risk. But sometimes, as Nick Kalika says, and again, you said Fight Odds on Twitter, go follow him, as he has told us in the past as well, that sometimes the house or the gambling site, whatever it is, they will take extra risk by making a line slanted more one way or the other, because they think that they're going to get more money on some kind of underdog or more money on a favorite, and they think that it's actually going to go the other way, in which case they can make a lot more money, the casinos or the gambling operators. But look, this like Cerrone's 4-6 in his last 10 fights, and basically all of those 10 fights in the time period that he's had those was like the time period since McGregor's last win, which is the Eddie Alvarez fight in 2016. So since then, McGregor was in the cage in October of 2018, and he lost to Khabib. And even with that, even with a 2-year or whatever it was layoff, almost, it was just about 2 years, I think. And he Khabib was Khabib against him, but not a lot of guys have really gone through and hung in there through 4 rounds with Khabib the way that Conor did. Like, it's not like he made a shit show of himself out there. Like, it wasn't, that wasn't Khabib's hardest fight, and it definitely wasn't his easiest fight. And, a lot of people think that if they ran that back again, McGregor would have a much better chance now that he's seen him and felt what Khabib could do. So
that is something I cannot agree with. That, I mean, it's just...
I said people. I didn't say who.
Yeah. I'm telling, fuck those people.
One thing. If you look at here, Jay, you know what I like to do, right? I go back and I look through what's the record telling me, and in Cowboys 10 fights since 2016, so the start of 2017. Now, granted, like you said, he's more active. So if he's more active, he's 10 fights over the course of a few years here is quite a bit over 3 years. He's extremely active. That's 3 1/3 fights a year. Mm-hmm. So in those fights, right? If you just look at the easy thing to look at is who did he beat and who did he lose to, and the first things that jump off the page are when he goes up in class, not weight class of fighter, he's come up short, and when
big
he's
fights
not going, and when he's not going up in class of fighter, he is winning. So the fights that he won, he beat Yancy Medeiros, he beat Platinum, right? All those guys are good fighters. Here are the guys he lost to: Gamebred, Robbie Lawler, Darren Till, Leon Edwards, Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje. What's the difference? There, right there. Now, where would you classify Conor McGregor among those two groups? The only guy that's maybe better than McGregor among those two groups is Ferguson. Maybe you could say Gaethje. Maybe. I wouldn't. But I would say the only guy in that argument that has McGregor's body of work is Ferguson, who you could argue might actually be a better fighter at this point.
Was Masvidal at 170 or 155?
Let's see. I think that was at 170.
So how would McGregor do against Masvidal at 170?
I mean, it would be a hell of a fight.
Oh, it would be a hell of a murder. I don't see Conor doing well in that contest at all. Conor's not a 70. That's the other, those losses of Cowboys that some of them I know are 70s. Leon Edwards, that's a 70. Conor's fights
went back to lightweight. He went back to lightweight against Hernandez.
Okay, so
then Iaquinta and then Ferguson and Gaethje.
So Ferguson is and Gaethje are the legit 55ers, and Cerrone is a 55er. He went up to 70, and we saw it. He's not a 70. He's a big 55er at best, and that's like Conor. Picture if Conor went up there and spent time in that 70 division. He would get beat by a lot of guys who are not huge names. Leon Edwards, he could possibly beat Conor, and it wouldn't be a long shot for Leon Edwards to beat Conor. Who's the guy that just beat Mike Perry? Jeff O'Neill. He could possibly beat Conor. It's because they're on the above average side of the 70. The guys at 70, like that's their home. Picture Conor versus Colby Covington. That would not go well at all. So I think that, like, just to kind of play devil's advocate, when you're looking at those records and looking at the difference of like when they go up in weight, Conor went up in weight to fight Nate, right? So this is kind of just like, look at it that way. It's two 55ers that aren't cutting weight. There's no way that either one of them should be making their home at 170.
I agree with that. I still think it's even more of an advantage for Conor than like in that case, Like Cerrone's shown to be more vulnerable at 170, and now Conor's going up to 170 to fight him, and he has fought at the weight, and he did beat Nate, so there is a little bit of a background, and I agree. Like he's definitely like much better at 55, maybe even 4. I still think at 45 that was the best. That was like the best that we've ever seen him. But 55's fine.
And if like to really add a little bit more to that, if you want to use that sort of like MMA math comparisons, whatever. Even though it was almost a decade ago, as crazy as that is, when Nate went up to 70. Right, he did horrible at 170 when he went up there. So I think a better a comparison would be you look at Conor versus like Nate during that period, Cerrone during that period, where they went up to 170 because Nate and Cerrone fought, right? So like if you want to do like MMA math, you look at them at 170 because Conor's basically fighting. Not cutting weight, just like Nate and Cerrone didn't do against Conor.
All good points.
Nate went what 0-4 against welterweights because he fought Rory. He fought that Korean dude. What's his name? Stungun or whatever the hell. Remember that dude?
Dong Yun Kim.
Yeah. And I think he had 2 other fights at 170. But against actual 70s. But then you look when he meets Conor at 170. He won 1 and lost 1. Nate's a different fighter than Cowboy for goddamn sure. But I'm just saying like that as far as the going up in weight thing, if you're trying to make some sort of parallels there, I don't think you can make them versus when Cerrone went up in weight because the guys he fought were actually 170s.
All fine, all fair comparisons. And by the way, like Jeff Neal, you think he'd beat Conor McGregor? Sorry, I just had to get that.
I'm not saying he's a favorite. I'm saying that at a 170, that dude's fast. He's talented. He's got a good set of actual martial arts skills. the size difference is what would come. It could play a huge factor there. I mean, Conor would be like a Frankie at lightweight at that point. Remember Frankie fought at lightweight and he'd just weigh in at 153 because that's what he weighed that day. Like, yeah. And he was fighting guys that were like, Gleason T-bows and shit like that.
Good times. It's good times. It's good times.
So, I think as far as weight, Cerrone's last couple outings have not been great. Cerrone's not only older, by age, but in fight years, a billion years older. Cerrone's put a lot more wear on those tires over the years than Conor has. I think this is Cerrone's 51st MMA fight.
Well, he's 36.
And Conor's what?
Conor, I think
29?
29, right? Let's see. No, he's 31.
Connor's 31.
Yeah.
Holy fuck. I thought most people grow up when they hit 30.
Wow. That was beastly. But he's literally had half as many fights. He's had 25 to Cowboys 50. And so Cowboys got 5 years and had 25 fights on him. So that's 5 years of 5 fights a year. Right?
No shit.
And Cowboy just is looking at that brand new shiny 7-year contract that he just signed, right? So
I didn't even hear about that. He signed a 7-year contract.
He's on a 7-year contract, isn't he? Yeah.
I don't know.
I think so.
I wonder what kind of contract McGregor's on. Just one-offs?
This is the first. I think this is the first fight in his 7-fight contract. Did I say 7-year?
You said 7-year.
Seven
7 fights. So that'll be done by April.
Yeah, could be. Could be. All right. So listen, did we cover enough? Like, is there anything that you're going to see? Like, I guess the only other thing is the ifs, ends, and buts about it. So if Conor wins, what do we predict is going to be his next step? If Cowboy wins, what do we predict? We already know what his next step is going to be. He's just going to keep going for fights. He's not going for titles. So
I think a thing we do have to touch on before that is humble Conor. He's doing press conferences now praising Donald and talking about how thankful he is to be here and everything else. Do you buy that as we're not going to ever see, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank absolutely nobody. Like, do you think that Conor's gone? Do you think this is a marketing thing for him? And as soon as he's done, like, I'm not saying he doesn't respect Cerrone. I've always felt that Conor respects martial artists and the guys he's in there against, but he also knows how to make money and sell fights, right? So he doesn't have to.
He could do this because he doesn't really have to do much in terms of.
But do you think this is a setup for if he wins, you're going to see him flip it right back on?
Well, I think that's certainly possible, but I think even he doesn't have to make that call. Like, he could make that call in the moment, and we've seen him be able to do it. Like, he doesn't have to stage it. He'll know if he wants to make that call as it happens. He's just that guy. He knows how to do it. So he's always going to have that. He's always going to have that in his back pocket, ready to go. Same as Chael, right? We saw Chael. How many times did we see humble Chael, right? And then, like, the next thing we know, he's talking about feeding bananas to a bus. I mean, come on. so right? I mean, that's exact. Like, wasn't humble Chael right before that? Like, bananas to the bus? Like, it was the previous fight. So yeah, he's always got it. Whether or not he
he's got it.
Whether or not he wants to use it, I think he makes the call in the moment. I think he makes the call in the moment.
Do you think this is the... Okay, so you're saying call in the moment. Right now, he's obviously down. Things haven't been going his way in or outside of the cage for a couple of years. So do you think that's what this is? He's making the call that, hey, I better, be polite and everything. Nobody wants to hear me talk shit right now. I'll look like an asshole because of, right? Like that's the call he made, or
no?
Do you
I think
this is...
I think he's got his tail between his legs because of the legal trouble. And you saw at the press conference, somebody was trying to ask him about the assault charges, and then the crowd just booed, which is fucking stupid.
Yes.
Like they have the right to ask. They should ask. And how he handles it is, on him. And his blind faith people, fans didn't give us a chance to hear what he was going to say about it, but his silence about it speaks volumes, right?
It does.
Yeah. So that's exactly what you're talking about here. I mean, his silence about it speaks volumes of that and what's happened outside of the cage or the boxing ring for the past couple of years. And, he's also a whiskey salesman now, right? Like, I watch hockey all the time. I know, so we don't confuse people. You're the Canadian and I'm the American. And, I've forgotten more about hockey than you'll ever know.
This is true.
On the boards, well, sometimes you might pass through a game here and there, and I know your dad watches hockey. Hi to Pat. I know you're not listening. You canceled your son's birthday 2 years ago. Greatest moment ever in the history of Facebook. I watch a lot of hockey games, and I see those ads for Proper 12, like on the boards of a lot of hockey teams, NHL teams games. So he's a salesman. He's selling that. He's talking about he wants to also box and fight for a title. So he's, but I think he's focused on this fight, and I think that he removed a lot of the distractions that he needed to. He claimed, I guess, on Ariel's show that he hasn't had a drink in 3 or 4 months or something like that.
Yeah.
So that stuff doesn't surprise me because you know what? When the guy focuses, he's tremendously successful at whatever it is he's trying to do.
Yep. And that's where I also will not be one bit surprised is if with the focusing on the fight camp, the focusing on Cerrone, the not focusing on talking shit, so you can take the exhaustion from always having to be on every time the microphone's in front of you. You got to be on. Your Money Mayweather, what's it called, Mystic Mac, right? Like, so by taking that out of the equation, focusing and being as strategic and as intelligent as he is, especially with selling fights, I'll not be one bit surprised as soon as this whole humble bullshit's over, if he puts Cerrone on ice, if he gets on that microphone and calls his shot. I think calling his shot should be Nate, because Tony and Khabib are already set up to go. What's the point? What are you going to say? I want to fight the winner of you guys. Well, Dana already said you're fighting the winner. So, either go with Nate because of the trilogy, even though Nate lost against Masvidal, or go right at Masvidal and be like, you're not the baddest motherfucker. I'm the champ. Don't you ever fucking forget. You know what I mean? And just like a complete WWF turn, because like he was the what are the terms, the heel and the what's the good guy,
hero?
There's like the heel and the something, and then like they turn heel and turn back, like that's the slang in pro wrestling. Haven't you ever watched Chael Sonnen?
Oh yeah, like a heel turn.
Yeah, but that's that's turning
good
bad.
Guy, heel turn.
If you're turning from the heel to the good guy, and then doing another heel turn to be the bad guy again. I will not be one bit surprised to see that, and I think it would be a planned thing. Because Conor knows how to sell fights, and he's not going to take this GSP approach for the rest of his career. There's no way. That doesn't sell fights.
The thing is, he sells fights in different ways at different times. One of the ways that he sells fights is he gets his opponents off. He catches them off guard, and he puts them on the defensive from the beginning. So that's why I don't think he has it planned out yet. It would be like too obvious, like in a way.
Yes, I agree with what you're saying. But this is like I said, like the love he's given Cerrone seems genuine. And Cerrone, I like what you said there too, though. Like he, like it's basically a mental warfare thing. And I've wondered about that too, because Cerrone's just loving him. He's not saying he's going to kick the Lucky Charms out of him anymore and all this shit. He's like, oh, Conor, good guy. Conor's talking to him about Cerrone's python skin coat and all this shit. And they're fucking boys. And, that, like you said, that Conor can, he can create that, like, weakness in his opponent and then strike then. He can do it through, like, this method or, like, what he did to Jose Aldo. Screaming in his face, taking his belt off, right? That same thing, but it was just like another method, and that allowed him to knock Jose Aldo in 13 seconds.
Yeah, see, with Cowboy, like he doesn't need to do that. Like if he tried to do that, he kind of, but he would be kind of like playing into Cowboy's hands, like this way he kind of disarms him, Like with Aldo, he disarmed Aldo by being on the offensive about it all the time, and he knew that he just couldn't keep up.
Yeah, and
Cowboy,
this way he disarms him.
Cowboy, if he was trying to do it against Cowboy would have been the one guy who could have flipped a lot of the stuff back on him, or been like, you know what, you could say all the shit you want, dude, I just don't care. Like, and you'd believe him because, like, probably he wouldn't care, So, anyway, there's other stuff on this card. And I know the one that you want to talk about is Macy Barber.
Oh my God! What? Nobody likes Roxanne Modafferi anymore, or what? That's
go ahead. Go.
Oh, I don't have it in front of me. Do you have it up?
No. Well, here's the thing. Like,
the last I saw it last night, it was a minus 1,200 for Macy Barber and plus I think 750 for Roxanne Modafferi. And I saw that, and I was like, holy shit. Is it still around the same?
It's in the neighborhood. And you know what? Roxanne Modafferi has hit as a similar underdog. When
in the UFC?
Yeah. She beat Andrea. Oh, no. It wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't think it was in the UFC. Yeah, but it was against KGB Lee, who was in the UFC. And
okay, in what promotion? Invicta?
I think it was Invicta.
Okay. I'm more so just checking the organization. Like it wasn't like how Roxanne spent a lot of time over in Asia, where they.
Yeah, in Japan. She was in Japan for a long time.
Right. So like the betting lines might not always necessarily be realistic, but yeah. So it was Invicta. So it was over here.
That was a legit line.
Yeah.
And I remember, we talked about Laura Sanko before, our old pal, and I remember talking to her about that fight, and I was like, yeah, but Roxanne won the fight, like she clearly won the fight, and she's like, if they fought another 10 times, like she wouldn't win one. I go, yeah, but she won the one that she needed to win. So she's hit as a big underdog a couple of times, Roxanne.
And this is no disrespect against Macy, but it's just like that's the type of line that you would see when Cyborg would fight. I also don't want to disrespect them by saying nobodies, but people that just had no business being there with Cyborg.
Yeah, but that was just a matchup issue. I mean, that was like,
That's the kind of betting line this is.
Yeah, but these betting lines are not that crazy in women's MMA fights. Like you do see these come up, more so in on the women's side than the men's side. Like you don't see them come up on the men's side as much, but when they do come up more on the women's side. Well, I mean, these are the same odds. We were just talking about this fight before for September. Yeah, I'm good on months. February 8th. February, which is it's like September.
One of them.
Yeah, it's a month with like an E in it.
An R or something.
Yeah. Shevchenko is minus 1,000 to Chikagian's plus 650. That's a title fight.
That makes sense, actually.
Right, but it's basically the same odds as this, Macy Barber versus Roxanne Modafferi fight. So you do see it. You just you don't see it as often as you used to. Like it was like every Cyborg fight. I mean, every Cyborg fight was like that for a while.
Yeah, like especially when she was trying to take fights wherever she could outside of the UFC. Strikeforce gave her a home for a bit, but even in Strikeforce, Jan Finney, there's no way that line could have been good.
Oh my God.
That was a very tough fight to watch. I remember King Mo said the one time that he was cage side watching that fight, and he was pretty sure that he was going to get subpoenaed to court for a witness to attempted murder.
And Jan Finney was like way too tough for her own good. By the way, I think she returned. I think she fought again last year.
She fought fairly recently. I don't know if it was last year, but sometime within the past few years, I saw her name pop up, and I was like, "Holy shit!"
She hadn't fought in a while. But
yeah, she was one tough woman. But yeah, I don't know. I came across that line and holy shit! Especially Roxanne Modafferi's name attached to it. Like I did not think that you'd see her that far apart as an underdog, unless it was like a Shevchenko or like someone like that. But even Shevchenko, I couldn't see it being that far apart. Shevchenko and Kaitlyn, you mentioned. It's gonna take a whole hell of a lot, but if Kaitlyn pulls off that Cinderella story or whatever you want to call it, holy shit, that's gonna be something else. As you mentioned earlier in the show, that you've been around her for a long time before she was even fighting, and we had her on Rear Naked Choke Radio, and she's never been like crazy busy or rushed her career, as we've seen. But maybe it's something that the rest of us don't know. Taking this time, being patient, being strategic with her fights. Never rushing anything, and maybe she's more prepared for this than we think. And cashing in on that betting line would be a huge payday.
Yeah, I mean, like by the time that fight goes off, you have to figure that if the line is like that in a title fight, that the champ is going to take a flood of late money, unless it's like the Holly Holm Ronda Rousey situation where, somebody really felt like they knew something and all the late money went to Holm and it knocked the huge line down to something, more reasonable. But like, I don't anticipate that happening here in terms of the line. And it is possible that she would get into the territory of, winning that fight might actually represent the biggest upset in UFC history, which, as you know, but maybe our listeners don't, that, the way I calculate the level of an upset is the highest betting line against, the highest payoff. That's the definition of the upset. Like Chris Weidman over Anderson Silva is not even close to the first one was not even close to the biggest upset in UFC history because he was like plus 200 or something. Like it wasn't even that long of a shot. And a lot of us were calling that to happen.
Yeah,
but I still see people like Weidman over Anderson. It's the biggest upset. I'm like, yeah, and it's not even close. It's not even in the on the first 3 pages of upsets.
I saved my buddy $1,000 that night when Anderson Weidman fought for the first time. He was an avid MMA bettor, and he got to my place, and we were getting ready to watch the fight, and he said like he's last minute bet. He's been thinking about it, and he was like, I think I'm gonna put $1,000 on Anderson. The odds are actually pretty good on him for once. He's not a ridiculous favorite. Like I could win some money. It's like, do not put $1,000 on Anderson Silva. He's gonna lose this fight. And obviously, we saw what happened. He got knocked out. But yeah, like you said, like people that like knew that Chris Weidman was the one, and it's not even necessarily he's a better mixed martial artist or whatever. It was just like even when Weidman was fighting back in like the New Jersey, New York area, coming up, like there was just this thing that you heard around him. Obviously, I had connections to fighters, trainers, coaches, promoters like what's his name from Ring of Combat, Lou.
Yeah.
What was his last name?
Zabella.
No, Ring of Combat.
I know. I could see his face.
I can't think of his name, his last name. Anyway, yeah, like people like that, you know what I mean, having that connection. So I was like, oh, this Chris Weidman guy is for real, right? Like in the regionals before it was UFC time, and yeah, I mean it was written already that he was going to be the one to dethrone Anderson. So for guys like us, like you said, Lou Neglia, yeah.
Sorry. I had to jump in and just blurt it out, otherwise.
No, it was needed. That was needed. Lou deserves that.
I'm going to lose Jersey card and my Italian card.
Yeah. But yeah, right. So having that connection to you and Hector, like that, there was already, like you said, knowing about Weidman. There was just everything was in the recipe, and that night, the way that everything led up to the fight, like it was in the air that night that there was no way Anderson Silva was going to win that fight. I was all over Weidman, so I could feel it coming in the air that night. Oh Lord. There's a fun fact. I think I just slid that one right by you. No, I got it.
What about Holly Holm and Raquel Pennington? I mean, you can't say that that's a co-headliner, but because this is just a headlining match, type of event. But like, Rocky Pennington is like, you know what? If Holly Raquel is going to be, I get what you're saying about like the co-main. For that matter, it could be Claudia and Alexa Grasso. I think that's just those are the two biggest names put together on the main card after Conor and Cerrone. Yeah, but how do you think it's gonna go? Oh, that's what I mean. Like, what do you? Oh no, I know that's what you're going to. You're just saying like it's not necessarily a co-main headliner. Yeah, and yeah, it definitely is not like a certified legitimate one. How do I think it's gonna go? Who cares? Like, fuck, whatever. At this point, they're both. Raquel Pennington is like she fought as close as she's gonna get to UFC gold. Holly had it, lost it, stuck around in title contention, and now it's like they're fighting just to stay competitive. You see either one of them pulling off a crazy performance that's going to catapult them into title contention, or even fighting people in title contention. That's why I'm saying, like, who cares? It's not. I don't see it being something that you should not miss. The finish might be crazy, but it could be crazy from either end. Holly might land a wicked head kick. Raquel might just fucking bulldog her, like, because if MMA didn't exist, Raquel Pennington could have a successful career in street fighting. Like, she is like a tough motherfucker, right? So you're not going to see any wicked martial arts spin kicks or anything from her. So I don't see it. Like, who cares? Like I told you before we even started the show, there's not a whole lot to touch on because the card's kind of weak. But do you have any thoughts on this fight? Well, when they ran this fight the first time, which is already like almost 5 years ago, if you could believe that, Holm won a split decision, and I thought Pennington won the fight. And the thing was, at that time, they were really building up Holly Holm because that was her UFC debut, and they obviously, were setting her up to fight Rousey, which, she did. And at the time, even though Holly Holm was not, a young fighter, like she's like in the boxing Hall of Fame, like she's one of the best like female boxers of all time. Although she did suffer one of the worst boxing knockouts like you will ever see in your life.
Oh, so brutal!
If you want to Google that, you can. But her MMA career has come after her boxing career, and she's been around for a long time. She's 38, and at the time she beat Pennington, she went to 8-0, and then she beat Marion Renault. And then she had the fight against Rousey in Australia where she had the famous head kick knockout, which, I contend that she concussed Rousey with the first punch that she threw in the fight. But it was a great performance. But you know what? Since then, lost to Misha Tate, lost to Shevchenko, lost to Germaine de Randami, beat Bitch Cagayan, lost to Cyborg, beat Megan Anderson, and lost to Amanda Nunes. Like, got really demolished by Nunes. So she's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2-5 since she beat Rousey. Now she's fighting Pennington, who I thought beat her actually the first time and has done, pretty well since that fight. She beat Jessica Andrade. She beat Bitch Cagayan. Liz Phillips, she beat Misha Tate. She had her shot at the title. She lost to Nunes, but she was game. She made it midway through the 5th round against fucking Amanda Nunes in Brazil. She lost to Germaine de Randami. Got to knock her a little bit because she missed weight in that fight for a 135 fight, and that was after a championship fight, so that's kind of bullshit. And then she came back and beat Irene Aldana, who's pretty good. So my point, I guess, Jay, is this. I know you said, like, I don't want to talk about the lines, but Pennington is plus 115, Holm is minus 135, and, like, it should be the other way around because Pennington's going to beat her. That's what I'll go. How about that? I'll give you a little tip.
Okay. Is Pennington going to fucking just, bulldog her and beat her unanimous decision?
Yeah, that's probably the way
right?
to go. But
yeah, there's not going to be some crazy, like I said, display of martial arts. So that's not taking anything away from Pennington. I'm actually a fan of hers. I'm a fan of both of them. But, and like you've talked about before, the spokes on the wheel, and as you get older, and like you just mentioned, Holly's, 38 now?
Yeah.
So those head kicks that she used to set up that nobody saw coming. Not just Ronda. I mean, she's knocked out other people with those head kicks. Obviously, they're not coming like they used to, right? So we could see that, right? If the spokes in the wheel are on point that night, but or we could see Pennington just grind out the decision, and not necessarily in a boring way, but like I said. It's definitely not like make sure that you got your beer ready for this one.
I think that a Pennington Conor McGregor parlay at the top of that card would be nice, and then you throw in Modafferi with the two of them on like another small little bet to jack up your odds just in case she hits as a big underdog again. Hey, and now guess what? We just made UFC 246 fun. No matter what happens, Like, could you imagine if you had, if you're going to bet Modafferi, first of all, as we say, like, make sure you put an individual bet on it, not just a parlay bet, because that'll pay for all your other bets. But, like, could you imagine having Modafferi win under your belt already, and now you get to watch the next those two main event, the pre-main event, we'll call it, and then the main event. knowing that if your things come out, how much you're going to win. I mean, that's fun, and it's 2020 now, so in the U.S. anyway, you can do that online in a lot of states now, including New Jersey. So it's a little action for you, little action. Or you could just bet. What did we say? Pretzels. We used to say you can bet pretzels. How many pretzels you want to put on that? Bet pretzels.
I put 16 cents on Anderson Silva to beat Daniel Cormier once.
Yeah, and I told you that you were wasting 16 cents. I laughed at you. I begged you to not do it. You're like, it's 16 cents. I'm like, yeah, why waste it? Go bet it and put it on Cormier.
Fuck. Cormier, I probably would have had to owe money if I would have bet that on Cormier. Just because, like, there was 16 cents left in the account. So I was like, fuck it. Let it ride on Anderson Silva. On, like, 2 days' notice, up in weight against Cormier.
No,
I think the payout was like $1.21 or something.
Yeah, it was. You could have just bet it on Cormier, and then you could have gotten to 18 cents, and then done it again, and gotten it up into kept rolling it until
just keep building retirement plan.
You never know. I've been in. I'm more of like a horse racing guy when it comes to wagering, and I can't tell you, like, there have been times when I've been down to that last dollar in my account, and I'm like, I could fund it and make this. I'm like, you know what? Let me see if I hit something with these last like $4. And I've done it. I have done it. I mean, a few years ago, I hit for a few hundred, like down to my last like $4. And I was like, oh, good. I guess I don't have to fund for a while. Playing for free. That's how we do it, baby. That's how we do it. Anyway, okay, building downtown. What do the building downtown people want to know? Do they want to know which person on this card is the best battle rapper? Like, what do the building downtown people want to, like, what can I add for the building downtown crew here? Your average listener. That's good. That's gonna endear me to your audience.
This breaks my heart because, with the building downtown, there's going to be a lot of interest between myself and my co-host Krill of hip-hop, battle rap, some combat sports, plus other like general interests. So it's going to turn into more of like just a general interest show. But especially at the beginning, you're going to see more guests from, like I said, hip-hop, battle rap, MMA, whatever. But the overall goal, kills me to say, the type of fans will be like Conor McGregor fans, because there'll be people who are just casual fans of things. Get what I'm saying? So yeah, it hurts my heart to say that, but but hopefully more loyal than Conor McGregor fans.
But Conor McGregor, what the hell are you talking about? Conor McGregor fans are so loyal that they have the betting line.
Before I forget, when we're talking about Conor and McGregor fans and the Irish, our buddy Sean from Ireland.
Oh, Sean Sheehan.
Yes. What's the name of it?
Severe MMA Podcast.
There we go. Sorry. Like, I don't pay attention like I used to, where I would watch everything, listen to everything that everyone does. He's doing big things, and remember like when he was I don't know if he was starting out, but when he first came on my radar, probably our radar, he was still on a much lower level, right? Just getting things together, getting his name out there, putting the work in. And a couple days ago, he had an exclusive with Conor. Yesterday, he had a UFC 246 breakdown show with him, Pete Carroll, Ariel Helwani, and I forget who the other
Luke
person
Thomas.
was. Was it Luke? You know what I mean? And you look at even the graphics, even though they're like just like the thumbnail images they have and stuff, they're very professionally done. You got to give a shout out to him. It's awesome to see it, and it's nice to see too, as I think you can agree with. he's a genuine nice guy that really cares about the sport. It just, it's nice to see someone like him work his ass off and actually get somewhere with it. So I definitely wanted to give a shout out to him and the things he's been doing and the success that he's been having.
Do you know I once got him to sing "The Fields of Athenry," a very endearing Irish song?
I was
on the air?
I was there.
Yeah.
I was there, unfortunately.
Yeah. I got him to sing that.
And you got Cerrone to freestyle about Jose Aldo and Conor McGregor. You got people to do some things.
I got Bart Palashevsky to sing the theme to the Wonder Pets cartoon. That was a long time ago, but I did do that. Yeah, I make people sing, so maybe that's going to endear me to the Building Downtown crew and folk. Did I ever get Dirtbag Dan to sing anything?
No. You know what though? He was on the day Trump was elected into office, and you asked him as like a fellow American or whatever, like, what do you think? And he was like, and it was funny because you and I were talking off air, and he said basically the same thing you did. Some things are going to change, some things are going to remain the same. We'll see what happens.
Interestingly, it must not have been the election day. It must have been inauguration day, because the day he was elected, I was actually in Australia.
Okay, or maybe it was right after he was elected. If not, then it was inauguration day.
Yeah, okay. It was some kind of, day after that had happened. I just want to be clear for the fans who are like, no, I remember that. Because we're going to get, 1,000 tweets about it. or none.
Okay, so now here, you want me to take it back to old times? Wrap this bitch up.
Sounds like it's time to go. Okay. So for the Rear Naked Choke Radio listeners, you can follow the show at RNC Radio on Twitter. And you can follow me, Joe Rizzo, at Rear Naked Choke, all one word, no underscores or anything like that. Yes, that's the original. I've had it for a long time. For Building Downtown, you could follow at Building Downtown. Not the Building Downtown, just Building Downtown. And you can follow Jay at J Kelly MMA. I don't know, did you do another Twitter for your Building Downtown personality, or is it just J Kelly MMA? Well, yeah. So follow Jay at J Kelly MMA. And you can follow Kirill at Apostle Raps. APOSTOLRAPS for your Building Downtown stuff. You can get the podcasts everywhere you get podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you get it. It's all subscribable. It's all good. And for now, it's all done. So I'll wrap this one for Jay Kelly. This is Joe Rizzo. Thanks for listening to the Building Downtown and RNC Radio, coming at you live.
Building downtown, building downtown, building downtown, building downtown.